Hi, my name's Hunter Snyder. My video presentation is on the hormone melatonin. Melatonin is produced by the pineal gland to help with the sleep-wake cycle in our bodies. Moving on to the next slide. This slide goes over a little bit more of the structural details. As you see in the top left corner, that gives you the molecule, how the molecule looks itself. I also included some melatonin-rich foods and spices, which is kind of odd to think that orange bell peppers are are melatonin-rich. You'd think those would kind of keep you awake at night, but melatonin is a protein-based hormone that is secreted by the pineal gland in response to darkness translated by the retina. Moving on to the next slide, functional details. So, when we look at melatonin, why do we need melatonin? What does it do in our body? Melatonin, its purpose is to regulate the sleep-wake cycle in our bodies, like I said. There are a lot of tissues that are sensitive to the hormone melatonin, but the main one is the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. So for future reference, I'm just going to abbreviate this as SCN. But in the hypothalamus, there's a small center where the SCN lies. When the pineal gland secretes melatonin, it travels to the SCN, where it then prepares our body for sleep. So the hypothalamus controls our body temperature, hunger. It has a lot of important aspects for parenting, thirst, fatigue, sleep. So basically, when melatonin is secreted out of the SCN then lowers our body temperature and induces drowsiness, basically preparing us for sleep. Moving on to the fourth slide, goes over the deficiency in diseases that are related to melatonin. A deficiency in proper melatonin levels results in multiple diseases. But with this, there are two different types of mechanisms that contribute to these diseases. In the first scenario, it involves the pineal gland and SCN tissue degeneration, causing reduced melatonin levels. These reduced melatonin levels lead to diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia, insomnia, and in the second scenario, the pineal gland and SCN tissues are healthy and there is no degeneration, but the reason why the melatonin levels decrease are due to aging. The diseases that correlate with these kinds of reduced levels of melatonin usually relate to type 2 diabetes, general insulin resistance, and migraines. So just for an example, myself, I suffer from insomnia. It's a certain disease that there's multiple ways to treat it, but for me personally, I don't find any of the rhythms or the medications to really help. I find more of the body temperature and the room temperature to kind of help me out. Moving on, this last slide goes over the summary of melatonin, and in summary, melatonin is a protein hormone synthesized by the pineal gland in response to darkness that is transferred from the retina, which I talked about in the beginning. Its main purpose is to regulate the sleep-wake cycle in our bodies and works as our internal clock and influences how much melatonin that our pineal gland secretes. So if our retinas translate more brightness, which we see during the day, keeps us awake, and it doesn't secrete melatonin. But as the day starts winding down, we get more darkness. That's when it starts to secrete more and induces drowsiness and prepares us for sleep. And lastly, an inability to produce proper melatonin levels due to tissue degeneration in pineal glands and SCN leads to diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia, and insomnia, which I had already talked about. And then the other scenario, inability to produce proper melatonin levels due to aging, leads to diseases such as type 2 diabetes, general insulin resistance, and migraines. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.